there, this is Journals Out Loud. I'm your host, Aaron Bach. Today, we're talking about jealousy in friendships. So that might ring some bells. It certainly did for the people who wrote into us. On the panel today, we've got Jabbar, we've got Stella, we've got Ian, and we've got Taylor. And without further ado, let's jump into that first question. I've been living in my best friend's shadow for 9 years. She's so beautiful and popular, and everyone always worships the ground she walks on. She gets hit on everywhere, and she gets hit on everywhere she goes while I'm next to her, feeling so ugly and unwanted by guys because they just ignore me. She's a perfectionist, so she excels at everything. So even personality-wise, I feel like shit. What can I do? Ooh.
Well, I feel like don't compare yourself to her. I mean, like, I guess it sounds cliche, but like you're beautiful in your own way and she's beautiful in her own way. And I think a lot of inner beauty depends on that. Is that just a bunch of BS?
No,
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, having been the beautiful, perfect one in this scenario,
it happens all the time.
I definitely, I can understand not getting. No, okay. In all seriousness, like this to me is kind of interesting because I've always felt like when you're the person who's not always getting the most attention, you oftentimes like make the most genuine connection with people.
Yeah.
So like I think it is really just about like detach, like don't pay attention so much to all the people paying attention to your friend. Just like focus on your own friendship with that person. And I feel like I should look at the camera. And you know, just understand that like when people connect with you, it's probably for like genuine reasons.
I think on another side of that, when you're in that situation, it could even be like the sidekick role.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting yourself in that role, and it's okay to give yourself permission to step out of that role and be your own person and kind of shine without saying, I need to be this person's just deaf. I don't know.
So I mean that's really great, and I agree with you. But like on your point and Taylor's point, like those are great statements. How do we act on those things, right? Like how do you see yourself not comparatively, right? Like you're saying don't do that, and that's true. You shouldn't. It's hard though. So how do we get there? You're saying step out of the confines you've set for yourself or other people have set for you, and I agree. That's great. How do we get there? So what are our thoughts on that?
Realizing where you silence yourself. And just becoming a little bit more self-aware about how you're presenting yourself, and is that how you truly feel, or you feel like, I just think self-reflection for me would be the start.
Yeah, I think like spending like time with yourself and like being like, oh wow, I'm a really good sculptor. I'm not, but like you might be, and you had no idea.
Okay, like hang out in that groups, and then you'll feel more inclined to be a little bit more out there.
I think the key here is getting to the self though, and I think sometimes, as much as this person is your best friend, like the last 9 years, maybe it's time to like detach and like not be around this person.
Spend time with yourself.
Exactly, because for instance, like I used to get kind of like almost like anxiety over social media. So like I like took down my Instagram for a little bit, and like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like I can actually think and not be focused on this thing the whole time. And I think sometimes you have to remove yourself for a little bit to be able to have that opportunity for self-reflection.
Yeah.
I like that a lot because, like, when you are so caught up in
the middle,
and in the comparison and in the quote unquote shadow, I do agree entirely that oftentimes it's best to find out who you are by removing yourself from that situation entirely, right?
Yeah.
Like by saying, okay, well then, what if I'm not in that shadow? Who am I then?
Yeah. That takes a lot of me time too. Like, I've spent so much freaking time with myself. Like, I know, I'm sick of myself, you know?
I feel like if it costs you your friendship in the long run, then...
I even have a story about that, because most of my friends are social media stars. You would say they have like millions of followers and stuff. And then me with my little 10,000, it's like, like when I'm out and about, it's just like I'm no one compared to them. But I had to separate myself from them. Nothing against them. They just built their platform, you know, a lot. And I just had to do that. So I'm good at things. I don't consider myself to be, you know, untalented or not worthy of followers, but I had to take myself back, see what I needed to do to get to that level as well.
Right.
So it's just taking a step back and be like, hey, I don't want to go out tonight because I want to spend my time. I spend a lot of time with myself too, just like you. So you know, if it costs you your friendship, because it did cost me a little bit. You know, I see my friends hanging out just by themselves and not including me in it, and that was hurtful. But now we're back friends because I know who I am.
Right. That's good.
We
You can
li-
come back.
Mm-hmm.
We live in such a culture of like validation through
Absolutely.
Dude, it's
like
so
like
real.
more people who look at you, the more validation you have.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you're just one person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming to terms with who that person is really vital to feeling comfortable around anybody.
Yeah.
Right? So I think those are some great points, and hopefully that helps. And I think
Hopefully.
on that point, we can move on to the next question. How can I quell these feelings of jealousy I get when I see my friend hanging out and having fun with other friends? I understand we're all adults and we're allowed to have friends outside of the group, but it still hurts when I look at her Snapchat story and she's out having fun with other people. I'm living in another state, so we can't hang out very often anyway.
Sounds, I'm no doctor, but this does sound like a case of FOMO.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it is.
Can we also acknowledge the word quell?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Great
was-
vocabulary.
We can acknowledge
Yeah,
it.
listen, you may have
Understand it, I
jealousy,
don't
but you
know.
have a great vocabulary.
Yes, a
so.
thoughtful individual.
No, that's tough. I'm from Connecticut, and I moved out to California, so it's really tough seeing like all of especially in the beginning when I moved out here. It was so tough seeing all of my friends like hanging out together, doing the things that I always did with them, and I think it kind of weirdly goes back to the first question. I guess with my answer would be like, you know, finding out things more for yourself and not focusing on so much of what they're doing, and find out things that like, you know, interest you and not just focus on that one friend. You know, make new friends. There's amazing people out there.
So you're saying basically like how you've coped with it is
Yeah.
by building your own new kind of like hole in the wall that's yours,
Yeah,
right?
I have like a whole family out here now, and
Mhm.
like now I have 2 families.
Hmm.
That sounded so cheesy.
I know,
But it's
yeah.
so accurate.
Catch me on
Coming
Disney
this
Channel.
summer.
Yeah, 2 families. Anyway.
She quells.
Anyway,
Oh,
anyone?
Yeah, how do y'all deal with FOMO, really? Like how do you, when FOMO strikes, as it does for all of us, what do you do?
I honestly
I
reach out
guess-
to my friends back home.
Yeah.
And instead of feeling jealous, like, oh my gosh, I wish I was that event. We go to that every year, and now I'm living in LA and I can't.
Right.
I reach out, and then we talk about it. And then what I realize in conversation is that they're like, oh my gosh, I saw you did this.
Yeah.
And so when you're out there living
Yeah.
your life and they're living their life, it's like, it's not just you probably. And your friends are probably looking at you like, wow, I miss her. She's in another state, or him, and you're in another state.
Mhm.
So maybe take that anxiety off of it a little bit and say, hey, let me reach out.
Yeah.
And I love that, because there's the flip side to what you said is like, oh, well, I also have permission to do my own thing,
Mhm.
right? And then they have permission to go and look at my feed and be like, oh, dang, I wish that I was over there with that
Yeah,
person.
you
that-
never
that
think
you're hanging
about
out with.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never
you
think
never
about
do.
other people are like, wow, their lives is so amazing. You'd be like,
Right.
I want to like live your normal like
Yeah.
life over there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So true. And by the way, just in case anyone at home doesn't understand, FOMO, fear of missing out. That's what it stands for. Just in case.
And just in case anyone doesn't understand, quell
Please
is sort
Google
of to like get rid of those feelings. Would you say? Is that?
Yeah, to put a damper on.
Oh,
it.
right,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, exactly right. So let's head on to that last question of the day. I met someone a few weeks ago who's turned out to be emotionally manipulative, depressed, and socially awkward. He is jealous of my friends and desperate for attention from me.
Mm.
How can I stay friends with him without him getting in the way of my other friendships? Before we get onto this, why, I'm talking to you now, the person who asked, why do you want to stay friends with him?
Mm.
Just
That would've been my
I'll toss
question.
it out there. And now please do continue your thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you hit
go,
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I think
Yeah.
personally, anybody who's manipulative in any type of way is like a cutoff for me, because I just been through that so much as a high schooler, and to be, more older. I can't have that in my life, especially all the positive energy around me.
True.
And somebody manipulative can be like, you wouldn't even see it from a mile away. Somebody that's really, really good at it, they can think they're doing something amazing,
Mhm.
but they're actually hurting you. So I don't understand why you want to be friends with somebody. The social, awkward, the anxiety, whatever they have.
Yeah.
It sounds
I
like
don't
the
know.
last two things kind of are telling of the first one,
Right.
in the sense I don't think this is someone necessarily probably who's actively manipulative, but
They don't know it.
due to their
It's a consequence,
depression,
yeah.
exactly, due to their depression, that puts you, because I've been in the scenario where it's like, oh man, I feel really bad for this person,
Right.
and you're kind of self-implicating yourself in this. That was redundant. Self-implicating yourself in this sort of situation where it's like, you know, you want to help, but the more you help, the more that you're getting involved in the situation.
Yeah, and I'm assuming there are reasons, like they just listed the traits that, you know, aren't working for them. I assume that there are good traits.
That's what I was thinking too. Like find something beautiful about them.
Yeah.
Like
that are making them want to be
friends
with this person. And also, like, I mean, I'm someone who always wants to help people. Like, I usually, you know, date the most broken guys, which is, you know, really good for my love life.
Fellas.
But yeah, like, I think that there's probably a want to help that person. And so if you do want to stay friends with this person, invite them into your friendship. Like, see how it goes. And I think be open with communication and saying, like, hey, I feel like you could, you know, be a little open more. Maybe they'll be like, I have bad social anxiety, and you could talk about ways around that.
Okay, so I think in the stance of not getting away of other friendships, don't treat this person like a project. Like, if they have all these issues that they're dealing with, that doesn't make you responsible for whatever they're dealing with. And I think just connecting with them as a friend, and instead of defining them by what they're dealing with, would actually create a real friendship, and then you'd be able to have multiple friendships in different areas.
I like that, and I think that I'll follow that up real quick with the statement, selfishness is underrated. I think that people forget that, like, you need to take care of yourself. You know, I think that as much as it's always a good thing to help other people and to stand up for other people and to be their friends, it's really important to make sure that you're doing all right, that you're getting what you need, because if you're not, then it's basically impossible for the most part to help other people. Yeah. So, you know, if it's becoming too much of a burden, and if this is getting in the way of your happiness, of your other friendships, of your other relationships, it's maybe not necessarily in your best interest to follow this along. You know, like, you got to think about yourself before you can think about someone else. So definitely stop and think about how this dynamic's going to play out in the long run. And on that note, I think we're out of time, guys. But you have been fantastic. I know there's never enough time, but
Taylor
that's
didn't
why
even give her number out, so broken guys can call
203.
in.
Whoa there! You can call us. We do have a voicemail. It's 888-531-7171. We'll be happy to listen to those over the course of the week.
Don't call for Taylor.
Don't call for Taylor. No, don't. So we will catch you on the next episode. It should be in a couple days from now. So thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.